right. Welcome back to the Greenhouse Podcast. We're so glad that you're tuning in. We've been in this little episode series called Wisdom in the Workplace. And today I have a special guest with me, Ben Harness. Ben and Melanie are part of our church. And I thought, man, when we talk about God's work and his wisdom and his way in the life of a business, I thought of you and I thought, man, let's have him on so we can just ask some questions, talk through some things, and see where it goes. But I think it would be helpful, Ben, maybe if you just kind of introduce yourself, tell a little bit about like who you are, your family, and then maybe like what you do.
All right. Ben Harness and married to Melanie Harness. We've been married for 24 years. I got married right out of high school, and that's prescriptive, maybe not descriptive, or
Right.
descriptive, not prescriptive.
Right.
No, it's been great. Had a lot of growing up to do when we got married and decided we'd do it together. We've got two kids, Abby and Wyatt. Wyatt just turned 18, and Abby is 22, and she is married to Connor. And they've been married for a little over 2 years. I guess it'll be 3 years in September. So
It's awesome.
it's great. Everybody's close, and we are in the grading and utility business primarily. We just picked up concrete about a year ago and started doing some concrete work. But anything, when you see a brand new building going up, everything under it, we did it. So
It's pretty cool. So did you guys grow up in Middle Tennessee?
well, I still have Peter Pan syndrome. I'm always going to be a little boy and have lots of fun.
Okay.
So I'm still growing up. But we moved to Tennessee in '96. I grew up in southeast Iowa before that on a farm. And we moved here in '96. I would have been a freshman and lived here ever since then.
Wow. That's crazy. So have you maybe tell us a little bit about your faith journey too, because I want to try to tie all this together a little bit. But like, did you grow up walking with the Lord? Like what has that been like? Tell me about
I did. My dad grew up in a pretty verbally abusive home. His dad, my grandfather, had a very hair trigger. Everybody's kind of scared of the guy. And my dad decided that his kids would never be afraid of him.
Sure.
And, you had the fear of dad when you crossed a line, but never out of anger, never anything that it shouldn't have been. And so my dad really moved the football so far down the field. I don't know that the next 10 generations could have that much impact in one period of time. He was a layman in the church, went through Liberty University home cassette tapes and
Come on now.
doing tests, and did that, got ordained, filled in quite a bit here and there for different churches that we went to. And so I gave my life to Christ when I was very young. I was 6 years old at a church, and it was a Sunday night, and it's really cool. My dad had lost a farm in the 80s during the farm crisis, and basically they had an auction, sold everything, and the bank took that as settled.
Yeah.
And he was going home one day, and there's a young family in seminary, and that family in seminary was going to have to quit. The guy had 4 kids. He couldn't buy his books. And so he's driving home, and the pastor said, we're going to raise some money if we can. And, of course, he's driving home. He's like, God, I just lost my farm. I lost everything I have. I don't have anything. And the Lord whispered to him, you still got your gun collection. And
Wow.
my dad went and sold a Belgian Browning collection that he had, gave the money to the pastor of the church and said, you give that to Brother Tim, and you never tell him where it came from. And that years later, he was our pastor, the guy that graduated from seminary. And when I walked down an aisle on a Sunday night,
So cool.
Tim was our pastor. And so my dad had one of those guns, was a prized possession, and he bought it back, almost 20 years later, and the guy that bought it from him had never shot it.
That's crazy.
And so there's a core value at this church called radical obedience or radical sacrifice.
Yep.
And to sit there and just having basically gone through bankruptcy and lost everything you have, and then God asked you for something else, that has just been displayed in our family's lives from 5-6 years old on up.
Yeah.
And so we moved here to a church that my sister had married a guy locally from here, and so they moved here in '93. We visited on vacation and thought this was a place to be, so Dad moved us here. One of the best things he ever did for us. But we got in a very legalistic, spiritually abusive denomination.
Sure.
And so that created a big conflict. As a young person, you're trying to figure it out. If you were not, called to ministry, called to preach, full-time evangelist, missionary, God just didn't need you. And there was a lot of that, and it was peer pressure. And then when you think there's no higher calling on your life than that, and maybe there's not, right? But God didn't create everybody to do that.
And then you feel like you're not measuring up. Because,
you're less than.
Right.
And so, inside that circle, there's a lot of peer pressure, and everybody wants to do the right thing, and everybody wants to be the highest calling in that. And that really, it really messed with me a lot. And graduated high school, got out of high school, and I'm like, man, what in the world does the Lord want me to do? It's one thing for Jonah to know what God's asked him to do and to go the other way.
Right.
That's radically different than just not knowing.
Sure.
And then to have years and years of people telling you God told them to tell you to do something, and then watch those people have unbelievable moral failures or not be consistent in their own life. It's very troubling for a young person who's at a crossroad trying to figure out what to do with their life.
Right.
And so, right out of high school, I was spinning. It's like you're a rocket on a launch pad and the jet fuel's burning and you're just not going anywhere. And it's a theme of my life. Several times the Lord has put so much pressure on me to make me uncomfortable that I have to move, but I don't know that I'm hearing Him. It's like I get these nagging questions and the questions don't go away, but when I take action and move, I don't get the answer, but the question quits being asked, if that makes sense.
Yep, makes perfect sense.
And so that's a real struggle. I watched a lot of my friends. My wife and I we went to church together, so we both kind of have the same. We got the same good out of it, and we got the same bad out of
Sure.
it. We just didn't quit.
Yeah.
And man, I could fill out pages of the people that just were casualties of that system.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking to still watch it.
Yeah.
It still plays out in people's lives as trauma.
Right. So in the midst of like discovering, hey, what's the vocational piece of my life? It's like, how did you stumble into like even what you're doing now? I mean, what were the other kind of jobs maybe, or was that it? And then it just,
no,
you always been pushing dirt.
So I've always been very entrepreneurial.
Yep.
Like my dad has, by default, been an entrepreneur.
Sure.
Like, tried farming, the farm crisis happens, interest rates are 19-20%, the world falls apart, and you just go do what you can,
Right.
To make ends meet. And my dad did that. He sold mobile homes in 1981 for 20% interest. So when I talked about a 7.5% interest, and that's a terrible rate, he always laughs. But he did that. He had a body shop, small engine. He built fences. We raised pigs, cows, just whatever he could do to put it together. My mom was an emergency room nurse, on call a lot. And so we got to spend a lot of time with Dad. And so Dad just kind of gave you that, don't be afraid to try something.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work out, you can figure it out from there.
Sure.
And so there's a lot of that was built into me.
Right.
And so, I took some birthday money, bought a $9 little rump pig, sold him for $100. A few months later, I'm like, man, I was at school doing nothing, and this thing was eating and getting fat. And so you're like 9 years old, and you watched $9 turn into 96. It was pretty addicting.
Right.
And I got into training horses, and so I would buy horses, ride them for 30 to 60 days, break them. A lot of them were already broke, but they'd have a bad habit. And then I'd sell them in a flyer. There's a Bonnie Buyer was a classified ad paper. It's Craigslist in print.
Okay.
And if I kept my grades passing, my dad would take me out of school the first Monday of every month, and we'd go to a horse auction. And I'd try to buy a horse, and then I'd try to flip that horse by the time the next one came along.
So awesome.
That was a lot of fun. Horses have a special place in my heart. I kind of have a natural gifting, which means I'm a terrible teacher when it comes to them, but had a real passion for that. It kept me out of a lot of trouble. Didn't have a lot of friends my own age, but I got off a school bus and saddled up horses and rode and trained and did that. We moved to Tennessee in '96. Brought a couple horses with us, but that kind of left my life till my daughter came along. And I worked at Nations Rent, or Tennessee Tool, actually. It was they owned 4 or 5 stores, and they rented equipment. So I'd leave school at 3 o'clock, pressure wash equipment, service it till 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, work there on Saturdays. And so I got to meet a lot of contractors, got a lot of experience with equipment, and they also had a deal that the employees could rent it for 25% of the cost.
Okay.
So here's my dad with a farm that needs cleaned up, and I can take a bulldozer home for $150 for the weekend.
Yeah.
And so we built ponds and built driveways and cleaned up his property, and kind of got a real passion for that. You know, it's immediate value. You go to a rugged piece of property that's thistles and thorns and got the curse of the earth on it, and
Right.
God says have dominion over it, and
Yep.
you can go make something beautiful out of it. And so I really got a passion for equipment that away. Plus, I was making great contacts.
It's so crazy. It's so cool how it all, when you look back, how it all is working and how God's doing things. And so you, in what year did you say, hey, let's start harness construction?
So Nations Rent bought out Tennessee Tool. So then it was a nationwide company. I was engaged, and I was 19 years old. And in like a year, I'm topped out. You know, like there's no more money to be made, the cost of living, and I'm not wired that way from my
Sure.
entrepreneurial
Right,
drive. I'm
right,
like,
right.
don't cap me, you know.
Right, right.
And a guy that lived one road over from us owned DJ Rentals. He owned 4 stores at the time, and me and him talked, and he was kind of interested in hiring me, and I was like, man, I'm pretty happy where I'm at, and we went back and forth, and a couple weeks later he called me and said, I want you to come work for me. So I made the jump from a nationwide company to a smaller family-owned company, and that was invaluable. Like, you know, corporate doesn't tell you how they're financing equipment. They don't teach you a lot of the finance side of it, and I learned a lot from Danny and Julie. They had a good thing going, brought me into all their meetings. We'd buy 8 or 10 skid steers at a time and watched them negotiate with everybody and come up with Titans tickets and, you know, parts vouchers and all
Right,
kinds of
right.
creative ways. But, you know, I did that for about a year and a half. I'm 21 years old, and I'm managing people that are old enough to be my grandpa. And that was a lot. That was a lot to manage the amount of people that I was managing. And it took a toll on me, like physically. Ended up with some stomach problems and in the hospital. And, you know, I was kind of looking, I'm like, man, why are people renting bulldozers? They're renting bulldozers because people don't show up to do it. You know, we didn't want you to rent the bulldozer if you didn't know what you were doing, you know?
Right,
And so
right.
you'd rent a bulldozer to a guy, and $20,000 of damage later when you pick it up, and he doesn't have the money to pay you is an awful. And you're like, man, I gave you 8 guys to call, and they're all busy, and no one called them back. And I thought, I should buy a bulldozer and just start doing this. And so 2006, I bought a bulldozer and quit my job and dove off into the abyss.
So crazy. So you've been at it 20 years now.
Yep, we got out for a little bit. 2008 was our best year ever. 2009 never started. We did some government work with TVA, traveled a lot, kind of got hung out to dry on some of that. And so we got out in 2010, got back into it in 2013. So we're about 13 years hammered back.
It's so cool. So tell people, you have the coolest like slogan. So, you know, we're talking a little bit here. You know, I always tell people, you lead from where you live. There's not a real separation. You know, it's like God is building the leader for the kind of leader he wants to lead, and then you lead from those values. That's why when we chose the values of the church, I'm like, I can't have church values and life values. They're going to be the
thing.
same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just like, you know, so you have this cool saying, it's on all your trucks. So maybe tell people what it is, and then just talk a little bit about how it came about, or like.
Sure. So that's a 2-sided deal for us. You have your core values. That's who you are.
Yep.
And I was, we had a business coach for a little while. I was very anti core values on the wall.
Yep.
Like, I don't want to step on any toes, but sometimes it's like the dumbest stuff on the wall. And it's like, man, you thought that was cool on Pinterest, and so you threw it on the wall.
Right.
And so business coach is like, you got to put your core values, like you live by them. I know you do.
Right.
You know, and he actually quoted a scripture, said, write it down and make it plain.
Yep.
And he said, you know, people should either be able to align with your core values quickly or realize that they don't align, don't want to align, and they move on. And so we have 5 core values at Harness that we live by, we hire by, we promote by, we fire by. And those are our core values. Yep. And then we have a core purpose. And the core purpose is the slogan that you see on the truck, and it says, build people, move dirt.
Build people, move dirt. Now, again, primarily the function of what he does is push dirt, utilities, all that kind of stuff. So it's so cool. So, like, I know that it came through the core values, but like, where were you, or tell me when that like became like,
so
because it just fits.
Yeah. So there's a process called the 5 whys.
Yep.
And it is the most aggravating, frustrating exercise that there is to do. But when you're dialing down why you're doing something, if you'll ask yourself 5 times, why would you do that? Why does that matter? Tell me why that matters. Tell me why that. When you get to about number 3, like you're ready to just
punch somebody,
yeah. You know, smoke a cigarette, pick up something, dipping. You know, you're ready to just come apart. And the real work happens about 4, and you figure it out at 5.
Yeah.
And there was a leadership team with our business coaching that went through those 5 whys. And I mean, it was painstaking. And then you multiply it by, you know, you're the leader of this company and everybody's looking up to you and you don't know why.
Right.
And so you're laying out there with your heart on the table, and you should have the answer. You feel like you should have the answer. And, you know, it was real simple to know that people are what matter. I don't care what business you're in, what industry you're in, what ministry, and you're in the people business.
Right.
And so, you know, before Build People, Move Dirt, it was Solutions in Motion. So it was a progression of, you got to keep moving. You know, if you don't know what to do the next right thing. That's one of our core values. Yep. And so that Solutions in Motion was, hey, when you don't know what to do, go back to the next right thing that you know to do and just keep doing that till you figure it out. And so it was a progression to get to where we're at now. We started another business. It's a concrete business. It doesn't have a core purpose yet. It's not developed to the point that you know who you are.
Right.
And but building people, you know, is our ministry. We just got to fund it by moving dirt. And so that's what we do. Dave Ramsey said in an entree leadership training we were at, he said, where there's no margin, there's no ministry. And, you know, if there's no profit in the moving dirt, we can't have ministry and margin for our people.
Yeah.
And so that's really what that boils down to. And again, I said we hire and fire by, you know, somebody says, hey, we got to let so-and-so go. My first question is always, are we done building them? Or are they unbuildable? In the earth moving process, there's what we call unsuitable dirt.
Yep.
It's unsuitable. You can't build on it.
Right.
And sometimes, due to various circumstances, it's unsuitable.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then you move along and choose to invest your time wisely with people that you can build with.
So cool. What would you say is I know there's multiple, so I probably could have teed you up a little bit before, but like if there's like one biblical like principle that like you often find yourself going back to, no matter what situation, like, you know, this is my North Star, or man, this comes up in this conflict resolve between two team members, or like with a contract or with a client, like, and I always go back to this thing. What would that be?
I mean, this is going to sound probably a little off from what you're asking, but it's Proverbs 31. The person that you marry and you choose to spend your life with is the thing that you go back to. You know, it has been unbelievably difficult to build the business that we got, especially to a certain size.
Yep.
And then after that, you get other leaders in, and you get great people behind you, and they shoulder into the load with you, and it gets easier.
Yep.
But that spouse that's been in the background, cheering you on, holding down the house, raising babies, you're missing anniversaries and birthday parties, and you're working day and night and day, grinding out, clawing out of living out of the earth.
Yep.
And to go back to that and know 100% that they're with you, they've got your back, they're sacrificing what you can't give.
Yep.
And that is just never, that's just always been there for me.
Yeah.
And it's a lot, it's a lot of toll on both.
Yep.
And yeah.
I think it's no surprise, I tell, people, like, really the health of our church is the first church, which before there was any other people, it was Shannon and I. I mean, it's like, it's kind of how God's instituted government, dominion. He's instituted the church. He instituted the family. So it's like, it really goes back to those things and the health of those on the drill down. I think it's really everything. I want to talk just a minute about the fun side of you. So full transparency, Ben and I have been having some dialogue back and forth about horses because I'm scared of horses. And
good reason to be.
They're
1,200 pounds with their brain.
Right. And so Ben loves horses and is good with horses, but also I don't know that it's a hobby. It's probably more than a hobby, right? I mean, I don't want
hobby addiction.
I don't want to be insulting by any means, but like, you travel multiple times throughout the year doing what?
So similar to barrel racing.
I don't want to explain this wrong because I know I get it wrong. You shoot things.
We shoot things. So, a lot of people know about shooting sporting clays.
Okay.
So what we do is it's basically sporting clays, except you're the sporting clay getting thrown through the air on your horse, and you shoot targets that are standing still. And so you got, in the main match, there are 2 pistols. They're single 6s, so you're pulling the hammer every single time to pull the trigger. You put 5 rounds in. Your empty's top dead center. There's a timer and a pattern in front of you. There's 130 patterns. So when you go to an event, you don't know before you get there what you're going to do. So you can practice whatever pattern you want, but is it going to be one they draw or not? You don't know.
Right.
And so straight up speed event. And so you got your horsemanship, you got your patterns, and then you've got your accuracy of how can you shoot that balloon. Shooting black powder blank, so there's nobody in the crowd dying. And the powder is on fire through the air for 15 to 18 feet, and then it pops the latex. And so I started a lot of horses that had never been touched, never been handled, but we didn't really do much with them after you got them to there. So most of the people that bought something was just trail riding or whatever, or they'd take it and finish it for a roping horse, barrel horse, or whatever. And I found that in late 21. And up to that point in our business, we didn't take very many vacations. We didn't do much. We had a business partner that decided to go a separate way in 21. And so we kind of took some of our other leaders and pushed them up the ladder a little bit. And I took off for Tunica, Mississippi for 9 days. And it was like my 3rd ever event, and it was a major event, which there's 5 majors in a year. And man, I left, and those guys signed a $1 million contract while I was gone.
Come on now.
It was during COVID, so you couldn't buy a pickup truck. They found 2 pickup trucks in Georgia and went and got them. And they hired a foreman while I'm all gone. And I'm like, you know what? You're not as important as you think you are in the day-to-day. And they loved it because they got, people
They felt empowered, right?
Yeah, if they know the boundaries and they know what to do and they're great people, they like to be left alone and let them do it. Yep. I love finding people that are, the governor belt is really tight and they have all this potential, but they're just not allowed to run. Man, we cut that thing off and say, hey, let's go. And that is a lot of fun watching people flourish. You're watching them build.
Right.
I've got a guy that's been with us for 8 years now. He was 22 when he started. He's married. He owns a farm. He's got 2 kids now. And you're building people. You're just watching this brick by brick, watch people build their lives. and you're creating an environment that they get to do that doesn't cost them what it costs me to do it. You know, when they call and they say, man, I'm not sure I want to go to this OBGYN, and no, your wife needs you to be there. I missed most of mine.
Yep.
You need to be there, and you need to be there for every one of them.
That's so
Matter of
great.
fact, we're going to have a problem if you don't.
Right.
You know, because it cost me that.
Right.
And
Sure.
it's not their business.
Yep.
Even though a lot of them treat it like it is. At the
Yep.
end of the day, it's my neck on the line. It's my wife's neck. Like, it's ours.
Right.
And there's a lot of risk that goes with that.
Sure.
So those events and getting to do that, it does a lot of things. Number one, it lets your team just have that freedom, and they love it.
Yep.
You know, they love it when I'm there, and they love it when I'm gone.
Right.
You know, and so it gave space to rest is not a value that was ever instilled in us, all the way back to those, you know, people are literally going to go to hell because you don't work hard enough.
Right.
You know, like
Sure.
that was the
Sure.
that was the weight that they put in your backpack.
Yep.
And it's like, well, I'm pretty sure Jesus walked off into the wilderness for about 40 days, you
That's
know?
right.
And so there's a lot of that goes into that. But it was kind of full circle for me with the horses and getting away from the office. It's a lot of windshield time.
Yeah.
Melanie and I spend a lot of time now that the kids are pretty much out of the house. We get to spend a lot of time on the road doing that and podcast and conversations. I'm a leadership podcast junkie fanatic. And so like very seldom do I go on the road for any extended amount of time that I don't come back with something to talk to the leadership team about and be like, man, what do we do with this?
Yeah.
You know? And it's a lot of fun to do that and create that time and space.
It's really cool. Well, I think there's probably a lot more, and maybe we'll have like a B-side to this conversation because I think there's multiple things we can dive off into. I think it's really cool, you know, when I asked kind of the last question about, hey, yeah, I got this pistol dude in my church that's a boss that participates in these things, and you know, you send me these videos of you riding these horses and I'm like, this is crazy. But the way that it ties into like what you're doing, it's cool because everybody wins. You know what I mean? It's like there's this redemptive thing that God's doing with horses and refueling you as you're away, but then God's doing what he's building with your business, with the people that he's building. I don't know, it's just it's not perfect. It's not, you know, it's not like you just always got gains. There's losses. There's all kinds of things happening, but like that's part of it too. Yeah. You know, that's the leadership part that like, you know, when you do things God's way, it doesn't mean they're not hard, but it just means they're blessed.
Yeah.
You know? So anyway, Ben, thank you so much for
You're welcome.
being on the podcast today, and we'll continue to dive into this wisdom in the workplace, and we'll have you back on. Thanks for tuning in to the Greenhouse Podcast. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.